Howdy, Immortalium here. Today I just want to discuss something that's been bothering me since my review of Romeo X Juliet. There was a comment posted on that video by a friend of mine called Candy Kiss, and what she said in that comment was, Japanese dubs are always better. Now that's something that leads me to have to bring up my opinion against it. I'm an English dub person, and to explain my reason for watching English dubs mainly, it's so that I can actually concentrate on the visuals of the episode, as well as in case there's any, jokes that might not be able to be translated through subtitles, can be converted through, the dubbing process into, a more westernized joke. But there are, of course, instances where, the Japanese dub does defeat the English dub, mainly in older shows, but it still continues in modern day shows. So I just thought I might just run through a few shows that, I should point out my opinion on the English dub versus the Japanese. Of course, the most obvious contender for that is Romeo X Juliet, the one that sparked it all off. Now, I know that she personally prefers the Japanese dub, but one thing you have to remember is that the majority of the fan base for this series does prefer it in its English dub. Now, I'll give you the reason why, in case you haven't seen my Romeo X Juliet review. Basically, whereas the Japanese dub, the dialogue is normal, it's just regular dialogue. In the English dub, not only do they give great performances, but they also convert the dialogue into a more Shakespearean dialogue, which, adds a great amount of flavour to the show. So, but no wonder so many people prefer it in its English dub form. It's okay if you prefer it in the Japanese, but I'm just pointing out that most people do consider the dub to be superior to the sub. That's just the majority's opinion. It doesn't mean that your opinion's wrong if you do prefer it in the Japanese. I'm just pointing it out. Now, another show that I just want to point out as well is, if you've looked at my top 5 recently, you'll recognize this show, Rin, Daughters of Nimosune. Now, the thing to point out about this show is that, first of all, if you get the Manga Entertainment release, it will immediately start off in the Japanese, so you're going to want to swap over to the dub if you want to watch in the dub, and I would say definitely watch it in the dub, because I tried watching in the sub. I did, and the sub is not good at all, actually. The performances seem half-hearted and uninterested in the material, whereas the performances in the English dub are not only excellent, but of course they are interested in the source material, and it's just no comparison. This is a show that I realized is saved by its dub, because the sub is not good at all, and that's just my opinion. Well, actually, it's not just my opinion. I have a friend called Duality-kun and on YouTube, and he prefers subs usually, but even when watching that show, he said to me, can we swap over to the dub? And I was like, yeah. So that's just the case there. Now, of course, the majority of the opinion of, subs versus dubs is that, basically, it doesn't matter usually between subs and dubs. I was in NomCon recently, and there was a voice actress there called Monica Reel, and she is an English dub voice actress, of course, but she also works on script conversion, like ADR stuff and all that jazz. And what she said is that, which is the best way to describe it, is that if she's making a dub, she wants, that a person could watch the dub and a friend of theirs watch the sub, and they could both sit down and, discuss the same show. So generally it's just your preference, and a good show to point that out is Naruto. Naruto gets a lot of flack for its English dub, but I want a lot of you to remember that, for example, a lot of people say, oh god, Naruto's annoying, in English dub. You have to remember, he's annoying in the, Japanese sub as well. It's not like, it would actually be a disservice to make him, I don't know, more likable at the beginning, because that's part of the development of his character, to become more likable. So, you know, in that case, that's a criticism that I think is quite unfounded. Another point I want to make is, you might have heard of this show. It's called The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. This is a, okay, it's a great show. Its sub and dub discussion here is quite interesting now, because basically you have an excellent performance in each one, but to the sacrifice of the other. Now, if you want me to describe that better, basically in Haruhi, it's where, the lead character, the titular character, Haruhi Suzumiya, is voiced by an seiyuu, a Japanese voice actress called Aya Hirano, and she gives a far better performance than Wendy Lee, who's the English dub, voice actress. In fairness, Wendy Lee gives a good performance. That's nothing wrong with her performance. It just lacks the enthusiasm and energy that Aya, manages to achieve. Now, however, the main character of this show is a guy called Kyon. And the thing with Kyon is, Crispin Freeman is his voice actor in English, and he is far superior to, I can't even remember the name of the guy, the seiyuu, who voices him in Japanese. Far superior. So basically, if you choose to watch this in the Japanese, you're getting the excellent voice acting of Haruhi Suzumiya, who, despite being the titular character in this show, is not the main character. Now, it's still worth watching for her enthusiastic performance, but in my opinion, it is better, I think, to watch this in the English dub, because you have Kyon's excellent voice acting, who is the main character of the show. Every scene involves Kyon to some extent, whereas not every scene involves Haruhi. So, that's just my opinion. It's worth watching in each one for actually a different experience. So, it's just something I want to point out. Now, another thing I want to point out, it's not like I'm fanatical for English dubs. And, if an English dub is bad, I'm going to swap over to the Japanese dub. And even if it isn't bad, but I hear that the Japanese dub is superior, I'm going to swap over to the Japanese dub. Two shows spring to mind. Again, for my top 5. So, these are among my favourite shows. First of all, Clannad. Clannad's history with the English dub is quite interesting, because it was first released in America by Sentai Filmworks without a dub. So the first editions of this were basically just the sub. It was only afterwards, in a re-release, that they then decided to put in an English dub. And to be honest, the English dub isn't that good. Not in my opinion. And in the opinion of a lot of people. Now, I actually saw a review of this the other day. A guy said that he actually liked the English dub. I don't know how you can, but, whatever. It's his opinion. I'm not going to criticize it. All I'm saying is that I couldn't stand the English dub. So, in that case, I swapped over to the Japanese, and the Japanese dub, sub is excellent. It's, very emotional, very powerful performances, etc., etc. Now, the main example I like to point out when it comes to the fact that I actually do appreciate Japanese, Japanese voice actors and actresses is Puella Magi Madoka Magica, my #1 show. This is the best show that, anime show that I've ever seen. Yet I always choose to watch it in the Japanese. Why? Okay, it's not that the English dub is bad. It's not actually a bad dub. It's a fine dub. Most shows would be, a good dub that, I would watch all the time. But there's some amazing performances in this in Japanese, and to watch it in the English dub, you actually lose something in it, which of course, is contrary to what Monica Rial said. She said, you want to be able to sit down with your friend and discuss the same show. In this, I actually think there is something lost in the English dub in comparison to the sub. So that's why I'll always choose to watch this in the sub. Like, I watched this with my parents, which in the dub, because, you know, they prefer dubs. And, you know, it was tolerable, you know, it was okay. But my friend came along then afterwards, and, you know, he said, you know, like, he asked if we could watch this, and I told him, watch it in the sub. We watched in the sub, he loved it. You know, and I'm not sure if he'd have loved it as much if it was in the dub. So, in that case, yes, I do prefer the sub in this case. So I'm not some hardcore, you know, oh my god, the English dub is so, you know, always the best. No, I'm not. But I do want to point out that English dubs can get a bad rap in cases that, you know, is not deserved. Another comment that she made, actually, was that she hated the English dub of Fairy Tale. Now, I'm in the process of watching Fairy Tale, and I guess this, you can call this a quick kind of preview to my review of Fairy Tale, just simply in the dub. The dub for that is excellent, in my opinion. You know, you have Todd Haberkorn as the lead. Natsu, I couldn't imagine him in that role because he was too muscular, but actually he's amazing in that performance. You know, her main issue, Candy Kiss, was Lucy, who's voiced by Chermi Lay. And, you know, she was like, oh my god, she's so annoying. I watched it, and that's another case where I've realised she's meant to be a bit annoying. You know, she's meant to be, she's that kind of character who, you know, is meant to be there, and she's supposed to annoy you a little, but then she's supposed to be kind of cool as well at the same time, you know? So just, you know, like, I don't know how to even describe it. It's like, okay, the annoying in the English dub is worse than annoying in the Japanese sub. I don't get that. I mean, like, if they're actually conveying the same emotion in each one, that's actually something that's a positive, in my opinion, in terms of dub. So I don't get that. I wouldn't describe this as a rant, but it kind of is in a sense. I'm not going to call this a rant, but I just wanted to point it out. I wanted to get that out in the air. So, am I an English dub person, to sum it up? Yes, I am. I usually choose to watch it in English dub. And, you know, that's everyone, you know, like, everyone has their own preference. You know, with the majority of shows these days, the quality of the English dub is going to be about the same as the Japanese sub. You know, particularly if it's from Funimation or Viz. You know, of Sentai and Aniplex, a little questionable in quality, but, you know, when the main ones do come from Funimation and Viz. And their dubs, you know, are generally as good as, you know, the Japanese. Sometimes better, sometimes worse, but, you know, like, I'd say over 90% of the time, about the same quality. So it's just your own preference. And, you know, to criticize someone's preference for, you know, a particular, you know, sub versus dub or whatever, you know, I'm not criticizing anyone who prefers sub, and I'm definitely not criticizing anyone who prefers dub. But, you know, okay, there are exceptions, I get that, and I acknowledge that, and I actually do enjoy those exceptions. And I think people should do that. Like, if someone's going to watch Pura Magi Medical Magica or Clannad, I'm going to tell them, watch the Japanese. But then, when it comes to, like, Romeo X Juliet or Rin Daughters Mnemosyne, I'm going to say, watch the English. I just think that's the best way. And then, of course, I'm obviously going to recommend watching something like Naruto or Fullmetal Alchemist or Soul Eater or Death Note or whatever in English, you know, because that's my own personal preference. Now, maybe it's not their personal preference, but it's mine, and I'm going to recommend it. Yeah, I think that's enough. So hopefully this made you think about, you know, the comparison between English and Japanese voice acting, performances, etc., and the way shows should be watched. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and bye-bye.